This is a speaker meeting. Our speaker will share his experience, strength, and hope for approximately 45 minutes. We ask out of respect for our speaker that you please remain seated during his entire talk. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, your secretary, John.
John, alcoholic. Thanks, John. And yes, it was really hard for me to keep my mouth shut, and because control is one of my big character defects. And sometimes I like it, and sometimes I don't. So my sobriety date is May 17, 2011. My sponsors, Mike Bennett and Steve Piccolotti, who is on Zoom right now. And I call them both every day. I have Steve o'clock at 6:30 in the morning, and I have Bennett 30 at 10:30. And this group is my home group. I have a service commitment to this home group, which is the secretary, obviously. And I try to do that regularly. I've been sober 10 years, and I can say that I've always had a service commitment throughout that 10 years. I've always kept some kind of a commitment. You know, whether it be, I was coffee guy for 3 years at Step 1, secretary at Dewey Humboldt Stag, and a coffee guy at Dewey Humboldt Stag for like 3 years, you know. And and I've tried to always do that, you know. So I got involved in this group because I needed a service commitment, you know, and I didn't have a service commitment. I gave up secretariat for our new Mr. Secretary over here at the Sunday morning men's stag, and I needed a service commitment. So this came up, and I was like, you know what, I need this job. And so I am an alcoholic. I am definitely an alcoholic. There were other substances involved in my story that were substitutes for alcohol, you know, outside issues, as some people like to call it, you know. But I am a true drunk. And I was thinking about this. Mike told me not to think about my story, but, you know, I always, a little bit. And it's, so I'll go through like a quick drunk-a-log of the consequences, all right? It was like from 1993 to 2002. There's like 30 times in jail, you know, on and off the streets, a good 5 years homeless, like literally homeless, sleeping under bridges, dumpsters, you know, everything. Drinking 24 hours a day for the most part from 24 years old to I stopped at 39. You know, multiple detoxes between 2007, 2011, like probably 50. And 50 times in and out of the ER. I mean, that's like the consequences, right? And that doesn't make me an alcoholic, though. It just makes me kind of stupid. And you know, I got caught for all the stuff I did, you know, and I did tragic things when I drank, you know. And I have to look back at my drinking history, and I didn't really look at it until after a long time after I got sober, and I look back and I go, you know, I took my first drink when I was 5 years old, you know, and all the guys were partying around the table, and I was their little beer guy, you know, and I went and I got them the beers, and they were giving me shots, you know, and I imagine like a normal, you know, 5-year-old probably wouldn't like it, you know, and probably be like after a couple shots go, you know, I don't want any more of that, you know, I mean, I guess I really think I was born with this thing. I don't think I drank myself into it. I think over time it got worse and worse, but I really think I was born with it because I stayed up. I remember my mom holding my head so I didn't swallow my own puke, you know, that night. 5 years old, you know, and I didn't start drinking then. I didn't really start drinking. That was just my first drinking experience. And then I look at again when I was 11. I remember I snuck some alcohol from the parents' liquor cabinet, and I took it to school, Greenway Middle School in Phoenix, and me and Jimmy Carter, and that was literally his name, was Jimmy Carter. And this was like 1983, which any older people know who Jimmy Carter is. And it literally, and we got caught, you know, and I got suspended. I got suspended a lot throughout school. And I remember my dad was old school, my stepdad, and he came home and he filled up this big old Tupperware container of whiskey, you know, and he's like old school, like, you know, how they used to make you smoke a whole pack of cigarettes, you know. You get caught smoking a whole smack, you know. He's like, drink it, boy. And he sat me down at the kitchen table and he put that tumbler in front of me, and I proceeded to finish it. And I caught a good old buzz on it, you know, and I didn't get sick. I just went to sleep afterwards, you know. And so I look at those two experiences and I go, before I really took my first drink, you know, I think I was definitely had this in my blood. I think I've always been physically dependent on alcohol, right? I have something inside of my body that something happens to me that's different than normal people when I drink, right? It triggers something inside of me and I can't stop. I want more, you know? And so we moved from up from Sunny Slope to the Paradise Valley area. And I look back, you know, I had the typical crap that we have. You know, Dad left when I was a baby. You know, my sisters emasculated me my whole life and beat up on me. You know, and you know, so I had no sense of being, or I had women issues. And as those who have sponsored me knows a lot more. And the guys that I sponsor too know a lot about it. And you know, so I still have at 10 years old. I was telling Mike before the meeting, man, it's like it's taken me 10 years to get this sick. You know, imagine what I started out at if I've gotten to this level now. Those who know me. They knows. And Paulie, I told you I'd shout out. Yeah, it was. And I remember growing up in Sunny Slope, you know, and I was like this little dirtbag amongst dirtbags. You know, I was this little dirty kid, you know. My parents didn't teach me hygiene, you know, so like 17, I had cavities throughout my mouth and everything, you know, and I didn't know how to, you know, wash my clothes or anything, you know. And my mom was only doing the best she could. She wasn't raised right either, you know. She just kind of gave me what I had, the best she could. And, you know, so here I am, this little dirtbag, and we moved up to the Paradise Valley area, which is like, now I'm a little dirtbag amongst, like, less dirtbags, right? But here, you know, and I never saw it that way, you know. I'm just comparing, you know, the way that I felt inside to what they looked like outside. You know, they had they wore a different shirt every day, you know. I wore one like twice a week, you know. And they were cleaner, you know. Their parents had nice cars, you know, things like that. And my dad built a Harley in the living room. Literally built a Harley in the living room. I watched the frickin' Harley come from on a crate to a frame to a motor, and then eventually it went to its new home outside in the garage when it was big enough, you know. And I literally saw that happen, you know. And here I am judging that, you know, to I'm like this little redneck kid, you know, in Phoenix, and I felt less than, you know, because we moved to a different area. I had no more friends anymore, and I was usually good at making friends down in the slopes, but when I moved up here, I felt like different, you know. It really just hit me, you know. And here I am, 13. It's coming through. Your shout's coming, okay? And at 13, and you know, and I'm feeling different. I'm not really able to make friends like I used to. You know, I'm out of place. I'm less than. I'm just like a piece of crap in my own head, you know. And I love what because the best one I've heard, you know, is like when Paulie says it, it's like a big hug, you know, when I had that first drink. You know, and I remember that. I specifically remember that moment. The 5 and 11, they weren't. That wasn't it. You know, that wasn't it for me. You know, I remember drinking, and I had that physical allergy. But when I took that drink at 13, all by myself in our living room, and I felt that freaking feeling going over me, I'm like, wow. You know, I specifically remember that moment. You know, I recorded it, and I still remember it to this day. You know, like that was my solution to my problem. You know, all of a sudden, like, it doesn't matter what anybody out in the world, you know, what they're driving, what I'm not driving, what they're wearing, what I'm not wearing, you know. It was just, everything was like frickin' heaven, you know. And I held on to that. I held on to that for 26 years, you know, 13 to 39. I held on to that big hug. Told you were getting your shout out. Paulie said he promised he'd come here if I gave him a shout out. So, and so I remember that from 13 to 39. 13 to 39, you know, that hug, you know, that big hug, that warm feeling that came over me that everything was all right. I found the solution to my problem, you know. You know, my stepdad, who was, you know, he'd occasionally beat us, you know, but mostly emotionally, you know, because he didn't know anything. He didn't know how to raise a kid. You know, I remember the big one, you know, I'd make a mistake, you know, and he'd come in, I'd go, I know I'm going to get my ass beat, you know, and it's like, oh crap, here we go. You know, and it's like, why'd you do it? Because I thought it was a good idea. That's what you get for thinking. I remember that clearly, you know, and I want to say that to people now sometimes. I mean, I know it goes against my grain. I know it's not right. My mind really wants to say that to somebody when they say something that because it's just, you know, it's programmed inside of me, you know, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to say that to somebody else. And so the alcoholism, you know, the actual physical part of my alcoholism progressed from 13, you know, and it went in waves. You know, I wasn't a daily drinker. I mean, I told you I had a lot of substitutes for that, you know, and I did a lot of that substitutes for that, but alcohol has always been my true love, started and ended with that. And so I'll go through the quick progression of my alcoholism, right? Because, I remember I was roofed in Phoenix from 1993 to 5, right? When I ended that roofing career, I was homeless, I'm started day drinking, like wake up in the morning to get rid of the detox. I started that at about 24. I continued that to about 27 and 28, where I was still functional. I could still wake up and go do rent-a-drunk work, which is day labor for anybody that's in the construction industry. It's what we used to call people like me, was rent-a-drunk. You go and you $36 a day because it was cheaper back then. And I get my $36 check, and I go out and pick up trash at a job site or dig a ditch or whatever. I've had, you name it, I've done it. Picking up trash at a landfill, I've done that like 3 times now. And so it got to the point where I was a non-functioning alcoholic, right? And that non-functioning was me like pretty much laying out, and pretty much whenever I picked up a drink for the last 12 years of my drinking, I was non-functional. I was 1 hour off, 2 hours on, right? 2 hours on, 1 hour off. It was just like around the clock, like that. Once I picked up a drink, it was just gone. I was done. Non-functional. I didn't eat. I knew when I was going to get into a relapse. I knew there was no, more about alcoholism applied to me to a point. But after that, it was just like, I know I'm screwed, and I know I'm going to drink, and I know it's going to go bad, and I'm like, I don't care. My first drink was like 3/4 of a fifth in like 20 minutes, right? And I'd basically slam it all down real quick and then start, and wouldn't eat, just a mess. I wouldn't shower for like literally months at a time. There was a lot of times I didn't do that, and that was me. That was I told somebody before, I was like, yeah, I was homeless. Really? Dude, look at you now. You're not homeless. I was. And I was literally that guy. You saw me walking down the road. A lot of people would walk to the other side of the road. They'd cross 6 lanes of traffic to get to the other side of the road, so they didn't have to pass me, literally, and that's where this took me. And I usually don't like to share that, because I don't want people that don't understand what this is to think that's where the level that you have to be an alcoholic, because it's not. You could have 6 figures in the bank account and everything, and I've heard people's stories that drink the same exact way. They got a freaking $1 million house, and they're in their bed with a shower 10 feet away, and they're not showering, for months at a time, and puking on the side of the bed and stuff, So that's just where it took me, and that's my story, But okay, I'm done. So with all of that, it's like I always like what Brant said. I was like, well, if alcohol were the problem, then detox would be the solution. Because I remember probably, I don't know, I can't even count, 100 times. I literally just stopped drinking. Without detox, I would just walk. I'd walk like 20 miles down to Phoenix, right? And I would stop at every gas station and fill up my jug of water and puke it out and shake and everything. It was just bad, I didn't even know there was a detox yet. I didn't find that till later, when I found that was like heaven. I was like, I found it. Ooh, Valium. Now I don't have to hurt when I detox anymore, and that was like years later. And so every time that I did that like 50, 100 times and never knew, I was like, I was just going to stop. That's where more about alcoholism, kind of applies to me, delusion. And I was just like, I'm just going to stop. And I did. I stopped probably 50 to 100 times. And I would do the other things just as a substitute to keep off the alcohol, But life would always become just too miserable for me to handle. So like the other stuff, it just wasn't my thing, it didn't take me out of myself to the level that alcohol did, right? Alcohol was just obliterated everything out of what was going on up here, all the trauma, all that crap, which it just totally numbed it. Everything else just kind of killed it for a little while, and then it just didn't work anymore. And then I would end up picking up a drink, the great idea, that great super. My first sponsor used to call this my fine-tuned machine. It would always implant that little idea. It would go back to 13 years old again. Where I found that solution, where I recorded that in my mind. And it was like, oh yeah, this will do that again. This will do it again. And the consequences weren't nearly as bad in my head as what they really were going to become. And then I picked up the drink and triggered that allergy and started the whole process over again, and it's crazy because I repeated this over and over and over again, And I tried to, I like that Einstein quote, you can't fix a sick mind with the same mind that created it, and that was me, but that was my normal, and I didn't know anything different. To me, that was just the way I thought, Let me give you an example of the thinking before I picked up a drink, right? And these are specific examples because of my day labor stuff. I had a lot of jobs, a lot of jobs, and I can remember, like, I was at this manufacturing plant in Gilbert, right? They were putting together these fluorescent lights, and everybody had their job, right? And I'm like, now here I am trying to do everybody's job, right? Because I want to be like the badass, right? I'm like, this is, it was funny. It really is. If you were there, you'd step on everybody's toes, and because that was the only way I could prove myself, and I didn't see that until long after I got sober, that I always thought I was a piece of shit in my head, right? And the only way I could ever prove that to the world was through work, basically. And I would do the best that I could. I'd be like, yes, I'll do that. Yeah. Please see me. Look how good I am, everything. And then specific example in that job right there. I see the boss over by that door over there laughing with somebody. And all of a sudden I'm like, that guy, he likes him more than me. And then that would be enough right there. That was it. That's all I needed. That turned into a resentment. Because I'm trying to live life, taking my solution away, and I couldn't. It just didn't work, man. You take that solution. Hey, Louie. Took that solution away, and it wouldn't work, man. I love that what I've heard other speakers say. I got worse. I got miserable when you took the alcohol away. Restless, irritable, and discontent unless I felt the ease and comfort of that first drink. And I would run with that little resentment, and that's just one example of 100 of them, 1,000 of them probably. And then the idea of drinking, that 13 years old would come in. It's like, I know how to fix this. I know the solution to this. And then I'd mentally obsess over that, pick up that first drink and do that. And I did that hundreds of times, probably 100 times. I don't even know. I lost track. And to me, that was just like normal. I by that time, at that specific moment, I already lived on the streets for years at that point. I knew how to do it. It's like, it didn't matter, $35 if I can start out with that. It's enough for a fifth, couple fifths, or a couple of half gallons. I usually didn't buy fifths. That was a waste of money, I'm more economically sensible than that, Mike. $5 for a fifth, or $10 for 2.5 times that fifth. It only makes sense, right? You buy the half gallon for 10, and you get more alcohol, right? You get like an extra whole pint. It's like, come on. My name on the street was actually Vodka John. One Eye Joe gave me that. One Eye Joe had both eyes. But when you rolled up on him when he was drunk, you rolled up on him and he was like this. Everybody knew when One Eye Joe was drunk because he would close one eye. And so that solution, that every single time, that for a true story. Every single time, over and over and over again. I didn't even know any different, And let me fast forward because that's the gist of my story right there as far as my drunk-a-lot goes. I did a lot of that, and just to go forward, 30 times in jail, I have a level 1 fingerprint card today, That's huge. You just got one, Monica. So that's huge. It's hard to get a level 1 fingerprint card, It is, and I have one today. After all of that crap I did, I have a level 1 fingerprint card today, which is a big deal. They go back 99 years on that, And so anyways, though, where was I? Oh, yeah, let me fast forward. So my first physical repercussion of alcohol was when I was 2005, when I was 33. And I remember I actually had a 5-year period where I was off the streets. I made good money. I was still drunk. Whenever I picked up, I still drank. Same way, but I had a pocket full of money. I drove a cab down there in Phoenix and, making decent money. And I always had, big old wad in my pocket. And I'd go into a hotel drinking the same way, and just trash the place. And I still need to make amends for that. A lot of hotels I trashed. And would still, call the police on myself. Help me, or go in the ER, help me, and that's a whole other long story altogether right there, but, but in 2005, all right, so I had a ventral hernia from vomiting, right, because I found a way to control my drinking hear me out. Serious. It was a way to, I did it to a point, all right? I would drive all day sober, right? Not drinking. I would drive a cab all day sober. And then around, it usually slowed around 8, 9 o'clock until like 11 when the bar rush kicked in again. And then you'd go out and work the bar scene, and around that time that it would slow down, that same thought process again, I was like, boredom's always a problem for me, okay, and then I had this great plan, all right, I would get I'd get a pint of 80 proof and a half pint of 100 proof Smirnoff and drink it in like 20 minutes, and then eat like a 3,000 calorie meal, huge meal at like 10 o'clock at night, and then I'd go to sleep, and it would fill my belly up, and I'd sleep all night and be fine, wake up sick, vomiting, ventral hernia, finally I was like, man, I got to get it fixed, so I went in and had the surgery, and I did not want to puke and damage that ventral hernia, and I was like, man, I know I want to drink, and I know if I drink, I'm gonna puke, and that's where that first time that I actually realized, that I had the desire to stop drinking, I had an honest desire to stop drinking, I was like, yeah, I don't want to hurt this, and then the thought that repeatedly after that, at 33 years old, that I couldn't stop. I was like, man, and I really realized that, and that's where I found Detox, which I told you was coming up. And I remember going into East Valley Community Bridges, which is CBI now in Mesa, and low bottom, bottom of the barrel drunks, go, and they used to just kick you around in there and kick you out after 24 hours a lot of times. And they admitted me to detox. They medically detoxed me, and I left AMA, tried to come back. And I remember the nurse Cosme coming out, and and he got in my face, and he's like, "Dude, this isn't a hotel. You just can't come in and out as you please, And I remember, he basically just said, "Get the hell out of here." And I remember, like it talks about, the gates of hell clamped shut on me, because I knew with 100% certainty, that I was going to leave there and I was going to drink, and I didn't want to, and I was actually started to cry, I'm not a crier, and that I actually started to cry, man. I had sunglasses on, and I was just like, I just felt like that full hopelessness, that I'm gonna drink, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it, And that was the first time I really, really felt that powerlessness over alcohol thing, I remember the intake lady came up to me and she said, "Hey, go and come back in the morning, and I'll get you in." And she did, and I stayed sober that night. I actually did, and I basically white knuckled it. I went and ate at Food City and just slept in my car, and and went back the next day and got into a halfway house. Thought the halfway house was the solution, because she got me into a sober living in Tempe, and I remember that was a solution, But I don't know if anybody thinks that you can seclude yourself or shelter yourself in a house full of new drunks with no real supervision, because the guy that I went to detox with was the house manager, a week later, so this is this kind of place. So you can imagine the kind of structure it had, right? So, and 67, I think, days later, the house manager's in the bathroom slamming heroin, even though it was never said, because he's just kept knocking on the door, and he's like, "I'll be out in a minute." 10 minutes later, knocking in the door, "I'll be out in a minute," nodding off in the bathroom. And then once again, that resentment, "You're not supposed to do that." Everything, and that was spun in my head, and that was my first time, because I was introduced to AA during that time, right? I was introduced before, but it was just at a, one meeting, 2 meetings, and one of them I went with a half pint in my pocket and a joint, and after I left the meeting and I went and, did my thing, and then I figured out it was an anonymous program. This is when I was 23, and I just had somebody else sign my paper, and got to, hustled them, 10 more years on and off the streets. Yeah, I hustled them, and but anyways, though, yeah, that was that first time when I was actually trying to stay sober. I had a grown man walk me into the rooms of AA, Tate P, and he lives in Gilbert. He's a really active member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he really carried the message to me throughout the years of me going in and out from then, 2005. My original sober day was, I think it was June 10th of 2005. I think it was ABA's birthday. It was either 9th or the 10th, but I want to say 10th because it sounds cool, right? And of 2005, and it's not my sobriety date now, And so somewhere in that thing, which is I came into the rooms of AA. I had a grown man basically walk me in to my first meeting voluntarily, right? Because I was like, it sounded like a good idea. Everybody else was doing it, why not? It works for them, but And I remember being so scared, 33 years old. I'd, done all the things street people do, why am I scared, but I'm like frightened as hell, walking into my first meeting at 33, going, what the hell, what was this place? I don't know what, are they gonna, take me and beat me in the back or tie me up or, then you guys chant too. That was really scary. Chanting, I'm like, whoa, crap, this is a cult, huh? And, but that wasn't enough. Going to meetings, living in a halfway house with a bunch of drunks. I actually had a sponsor. I called the sponsor every now and then. Didn't really start the steps, but I called him anyways. I had a couple different sponsors, quite a few of them over the years. And that wasn't enough to keep me sober, because that idea kept coming into my mind. I could not live life without drinking. And then once I picked it up, after about 2 weeks of this, I couldn't live life with it. So I'm stuck in this freaking purgatory, this no man's land of not being able to handle life without alcohol and not being able to handle life with it, because somewhere in that introduction of AA, I heard some things, people like this telling their story, and I kind of related to it. And, we usually smell BS, right? I mean, because that's where we come from. And I knew that they weren't lying to me, and they planted these little seeds inside of my head, that this thing is never going to get any better. It's always going to get worse, and I thought about that, I thought about that hard, because every time I went back out, it got worse, and I could never relapse for very long after that. AA really, really screwed up my drinking, bad, really bad, because after 2 weeks, man, I'm like in a living hell, because now I'm drinking heavily on the streets again, and I got these little minds like, dude, people telling their stories, yeah, I got worse and worse and worse, and every time I went back out, it was horrible, 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 and it just kept getting worse until I got sober, and I did these certain things, these simple kit of spiritual tools laid at my feet, and I kept hearing that in my mind every time I drank, and I kept trying to drink it away more, like, oh, more vodka will take care of this, and it just didn't work. Man, it just didn't work. I was a vodka drinker. Beer ended horribly, with bodily functions not working the way that they should. Everybody just drank a lot of beer, knows what I'm talking about. And wine, I hear, too. Was never a wine guy. And that is the worst place. I spent 4 years in that place. And it was the worst place and the best place I could ever be in. And I've seen other people, man. When I see people coming in happy and brand new and happy, I'm like, hey, I welcome them as anybody else. When I see somebody coming in beaten and broken, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want that sick guy right there, man. Because that's what it took for me to actually become willing. I don't become willing just out of osmosis, right? I can't sit in a chair and then it just kind of happens. It happens through a whole lot of pain for me. Some people come in and they get sober right away, and that's fine. That's perfectly. I mean, some people get it. They were done when they came in, and that's it. They're over, man, and they live a happy life after that and get sober and work the program or do whatever. And some people go to church and get sober. There's no one way to get sober. Our way works for us. It's proven. And whatever works for anybody else is all power to them. I mean, that's it. For me, man, I had no solution. I grew up godless, I grew up with a motorcycle was the God. The Harley Davidson in the living room was the God. That was it. And that's the way I was raised, And so I did nothing. My dad taught me to make fun of people that believed in God. That was the way I was raised. I didn't know any different, And the people knocking on the door going, you're going to go to hell if you don't listen, if you don't read this. That was the two things I had with religion that built up so much obstinacy when I came into the program with it, And so when I finally did, so my last drink, all right, I did multiple rehabs in that 4 years, right? I did the Salvation Army ARC program 3 times. Anybody that's been there or heard of it, it's intense. It's a real deal. And I thought I could find God in there, right? I'm like, okay, this is a Christian rehab, I'll find God in here. I was like, because everybody kept saying they had to find God in order to stay sober, and that's what I heard, right? So I went to this Christian rehab going, okay, I'll get this thing, and I'll just hang out here long enough, he'll find me, right? And I remember, being in a 5-man room, right? And everybody would get out of the room, and I'd wait for everybody to leave, and I'd get down on my knees real quick and pray, because that's what everybody else was saying they were doing, And I'll get up real quick before anybody saw me, and I'll be like, okay, good. I got that part done, And I'm serious. I'm not kidding either. I would literally do that, And you got to go to chapel. This is the only other time in my life I dressed up for like this was when I had to go to chapel at the Salvation Army. I liked it. I really did, man. I really did love chapel days, Wednesdays and Sundays. And couldn't find it, man. It just didn't work for me. I left out of that place 3 times drunk. I was in Hillside here twice. 30 days. Got out of there. I was happy. Ooh, all my fellowship, I developed a great fellowship in there. A bunch of other drunks, amongst us. We had fun. We played Pictionary and made little frickin' projects with glue and beads, and it was just, it was fun, and we really did have a good time in there, And I'd leave there drunk within 2 weeks, because my priorities after leaving that place were I need to find a job and I need to find a place to live. And I didn't even, the other part, staying, doing what I had to do to stay sober didn't even occur to me. It was not even there. It was like, I got to find these 2 things first. And each time I got drunk. So when I came back from the Salvation Army the 3rd time, and that was a really bad drunk, second to the last one, it was real bad. I won't go into that story, but I came back up here. I worked for a guy in the program, because I came back up here with 1 sock, 2 shoes, a pair of underwear, shorts, and a shirt. And that was literally what I had in my name. No joke. Just 1 sock. I remember where I left the sock, too. It was underneath a trailer at, 35th Avenue in Deer Valley, I think it was. Circle K, because I was running around stealing freaking alcohol from everywhere. And so I came back up here with that. I stayed sober for a week. I went back out, and I came back in, and I don't know why. I was just like, man, I finished on that Monday, man. Tuesday's my sobriety date. And when I came back into the room, so Steve, who's on Zoom, he was, when I was in and out for the last couple of years up here, he used to always come up to me, man. So anybody that I've given my number to, I say, hey, man, let's have some coffee. I mean that sincerely. I really mean that sincerely. Let's have some coffee, because you know what that man did? And I had a resentment against bikers, right, growing up. Oh, I had a huge resentment against bikers. And so Steve's probably laughing right now, is he? Because I picked Steve, who's a biker, to be my sponsor, because that man loved me. He stuck his hand out and he loved me, and I knew that he loved me, man. I knew that he sincerely wanted to help me without any strings attached, right? And so I asked him, man, at the Friday night speaker meeting, will you be my, hey, man, can you be my sponsor? And he looked at me and he's got this glare, and he was like, you done? I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I think you are. And I didn't know that I was never, and I still don't know that I had my last drunk. I know I don't want to have my last drunk. I know I do not ever want to drink again. You got it. You understood what I'm saying. And but I know the chances of me staying sober are probably less than the chances of me getting drunk again. That's a scary thought. It really is, man. And I don't want that. I want to tip the odds in my favor, man. So I want to keep doing a lot of work. Because I don't ever want to go back, man. If I pick up a drink, I'm dead. I am freaking dead. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, I got a daily reprieve. And a reprieve is just a postponement of punishment. Literally. It's a postponement of a death sentence, I got a daily postponement of a death sentence is what I have, man, because that's what it tells me in my instructions, And that's a scary thought, but I know that I haven't had a desire to drink in 10 years, man. I'm not one. I've had trouble, I've had times, but not one desire to drink. But so Steve, I asked him to be my sponsor at the Friday night speaker meeting, and he's, yeah, absolutely, man. And I rode a bike the first 10 months I was sober. I didn't have a license for 5 years. I got a DUI in a cab when I was driving, I told you about. July 7th of 2007, nonetheless. 777. And so I didn't have a license for 5 years, and the dips, right then when the economy just took a dump, I'm out of shape from driving a cab. I didn't have a license, didn't have anything, man. It was like the perfect little stew, that just, there you go, time to get sober, dude, And I remember, man, so I ride my bike to his house once a week. We'd go through a step, and I think within about a month, I was on my 4th step, and I discovered a lot of things about myself, that I didn't know. And I discovered so many more after that first 4th step through my daily inventory, through looking at myself. But that first one was just amazing, And I repeat these same things. I had tomatoes on my first 4th step. Didn't have tomatoes on my last 4th step, did I? Literally, I had tomatoes on my first 4th step twice. Blimpie sub, and Wiener Schnitzel. Because they wanted to charge me 25 cents a slice for a tomato, extra tomato. And I literally, this is a legitimate resentment because I didn't go back in those places for years. None of them. Blimpie sub, you would not catch me. I would look at them and I'd glare and be like, you son of bitches. And I'd walk right by them. Wiener Schnitzel, you fucking walk right by them, man. It was a legitimate resentment, man. It belonged on my four-step, you know. It was like, man, I never realized that, you know, because I go through my day to day and I go, same thing happens. You know, there's restaurants out there that, you know, I'm paying $8 for my tuna sub, and they want to charge me 25 cents for an extra slice of tomato, you know, and that same thought comes into my mind right away. It's like default, you know, it's like, and I'm like, oh, hold on. Daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. You know, okay. Sometimes it doesn't come that easily, you know, sometimes it takes a little longer, you know, but, so let me go back, you know, restless, irritable, and discontent unless I find the ease and comfort of that first drink, right? And then it says, unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, which is something I can grasp onto. I couldn't grasp onto that religious experience, you know, or that spiritual awakening. I couldn't grasp onto that in the beginning, right? It just didn't work for me because I was obstinate against the religion. But that psychic change, I can understand that. A total different change in the way I think. No longer are tomatoes going to run my life, you know. I mean, no longer am I going to be angry at all bikers, you know, because the way I was raised, you know. Still working on the woman thing, you know, but being emasculated by two older sisters growing up, you know. It was just, you know, all these little things, you know, having the mean stepdad, you know, that always, you know, beat me down emotionally, you know. I mean, and it's just a work in progress, right? But unless I can experience an entire psychic change, I'm screwed, right? Because I'm going to go back to my default again. You know, what I know fixes the problems, right? I'm gonna remember that 13 years old. You know, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go, shit, I did it again, you know? And I don't want that, man. You know, because when I came in here, I didn't want anything. I wasn't looking at a year. I wasn't looking at 10 years. I wasn't looking at getting a real job or buying a house. Or owning a business or becoming a realtor or anything, you know. I wasn't looking at that. All I was looking at is my experience said I had 30, 60, 90 days sober and I usually got drunk. I had 100 days once and 4.5 months once before this, you know. And I knew that I kept getting drunk, man. And I was like, I do not want to do this again. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And all I wanted was enough under my feet because I knew I kept hitting this wall, right? I wanted enough under my feet that you know, I could just stand there and what came at me wasn't going to budge, right? And because I always kept hitting that wall. And the weird part is, man, I busted my ass. You know, the first year and a half, I did like 10 meetings a week, right? I journaled every day, called my sponsor every day. I still call my sponsors every day. You know, I started putting my hand out to new guys, you know, at the meetings. I don't know how that happened, you know, like at this, I remember the Sunday morning noon meeting at Step 1. I would always sit back next to my sponsor, you know, Steve. And they would always ask, you know, I was willing to sponsor, you know, and I was like maybe like 4 or 5 months sober, and I was looking, I was like, should I put my hand up? And he's like, oh, if you want to. I started putting my hand up, you know, and somewhere around, or actually not somewhere, at 8 months sober, I started working with my first new guy, you know, and when I had a year sober, I was working with 4 new guys. And, you know, and that's really what saved my life. You know, I was telling somebody before, you know, about the juice, you know, oh yeah, Taylor. And I was telling him, you know, man, I was like, yeah, you show up at this meeting, man. And, you know, sooner or later, you know, guys are going to see you all the time. And sooner or later, you're going to sponsor guys. And to watch those guys, get it, man. And the light come on and get that juice, get that psychic change, you know. And and it's cool. It's the best thing ever to watch, man. It's by far, you know. And I remember Albert Chavez when I was in an outpatient program at Community Bridges in Phoenix. You know, he's like, I wish I could give everybody this gift, but I can't. You know, and I remember he was tearing up, and he was like 5 years sober at the time, back in like 05 or whatever. And I remember that, man. That spoke wonders to me, man. I wish I could give everybody this gift, but I can't. I can't. You know, I mean, I can help somebody who's willing. That's it. You know, but I can't give it. I can't make somebody sober. You know, so like if I have somebody I'm working with that gets drunk, I can't get them drunk. I can't get you sober. You know, I mean, I can do the best I can to show you what I've been shown, right? to walk through what we walk through, what those before me have shown me. You know, I have an actual instruction manual in the big book, you know, that tells me, it will give me step-by-step instructions on how to do this, right? But, you know, through that process of, you know, the biggest thing I would say, you know, it was working with new guys, man. You know, when I started working with new guys, everything changed, you know, everything. And I've seen a lot of guys come in. Yeah, I know you're going to try, but it's not going to work, Paulie. And so if you want to you want to mess with Paulie, call him Batman. Because he's one of the guys I saw come in, you know, 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, he came in and he was broken, man. And that's, I cheat. I tell people I cheat sometimes when I go after people, because I go after this really sick guys, you know, like Mike. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of cheating, because it's like the odds of them getting sober are probably better, because it's like, you're just fucked up, dude. yeah. Let's come on, let's walk, let's do this. You know, let's have some coffee, you know. And I love it, you know, because it's like, yeah, I wouldn't trade this life for anything, you know. So I used to, like, here's one of the things I used to do, and you know, probably not the best thing, but you know, oh well. Like first time I was on the streets, I was actually 17, and right after I dropped out of high school, because I only made it halfway through my sophomore year of high school, never got a GED, never had any kind of formal education after that. But so I used to go look for real estate signs, and if anybody has their house vacant, you know, always leave your blinds closed. Leave blinds on the house and leave your blinds closed, because there's people out there that look for places to sleep, you know, and they will break your window and sleep in your vacant house just to have a place to sleep, you know. So that's good advice. I don't give much advice. That's good advice I'm going to give you. And so that's all I'll tell about that story. But so yeah, where was I? Getting sober, huh? Yeah. Helping new people. It's the best thing ever, you know, and it talks about it in the big book, as far as, like, you know, to watch the lights come on, you know, and then an experience you don't want to miss, you know, you don't want to miss it. And so today, you know, if I had to say, you know, there's obviously physical things, you know. I'm a business owner, right? I actually started a business 6 years ago and been successful at it. You know, I'm a realtor. I got my real estate license. That's why I said I have a level 1 fingerprint card. You know, and I had a bunch of charges that just one of them disqualifies you in the last 99 years, you know, and I had to go back. And it was actually pretty cool, because you have to do what's called a good cause exception. So if anybody is thinking about getting a level 1 fingerprint card, and you already know you're going to fail because one little minor thing that you did will fail you, I know how to get around it, and I could show you how to get around it, you know, because it's the good cause exception. So that was pretty cool. No, it's legal, dude. Serious. So each charge I had to write like a little amends letter for each charge, you know, and they were all a little different. I had 10 of them, you know, and it was like, yeah, I was on the streets, you know, and I used to steal alcohol to find my way, you know, and blah, 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 and I'm doing better now, you know. It were better than that. That's horrible. But, you know, I actually wrote these really cool little letters and everything. I created this nice little packet, and I had to go turn it down into the Arizona Department of Real Estate the FBI check. And they gave me a level 1 fingerprint card, you know, and then it would just go from there, you know. But beyond that, I don't like to talk about that, because, you know, that's just are the physical parts that I've gotten. But so I remember I was working with a guy named Asher, right? And he was getting ready to go back to Wisconsin and finish his schooling, so he had like a month. I was like, yeah, dude, I'll keep you busy for a month. So he worked with me, and I'm working with him, right? And he's like, I'm like having this issue, right? I'm like, so I'm basically talking to myself in front of him. I'm like, okay, yeah, what about this? Okay, yeah, and I'm like forming the solution in my head out loud, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. And he's like, dude, that was cool. That's like having a sponsor in your head, man. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. But it was really just following my instructions, right? Pause when agitated or doubtful, ask for the right thought or action, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, my constant thought of others is God, I don't read the big book that much anymore, man. I can't sound good, Mike. I need to start reading dude, we need to read the big book more. So, seriously. But all the good AA cliches is what I'm talking about, right? And that's really what I've got, you know, because now, like I said, the misery used to be normal for me. Like being happy used to be like weird. You know, I couldn't sit in a room full of people sober and laugh without feeling uncomfortable. Literally. You know, when people used to be laughing over there, they were always laughing about me. You know? And that stuff still kind of creeps in there a little bit here and there. But now the normal is to be happy. You know, like I get a text from some weird bearded guy every now and then, which he hasn't called me and he hasn't texted me in a while. He'll just be driving home from work and he's like, dude, I got the most amazing life ever, in this Boston accent. Figure out who it is. And he'll text me that literally, and that's like the joys of that's how I feel a lot, man. I get this weird euphoric feeling sometimes, like, whoa, what have I, this gift, I'm getting it. Like, what's this gift I've been given, man? This unearned gift. This thing that I did not deserve. You know, I by far didn't deserve it. You know, if I got what I deserved, yeah, oh yeah. You know, and what is this thing? You know, and the abnormal part now is when I start feeling restless, irritable, and discontent, which is a big watch thing for me. I usually look at that when I'm getting cranky. I know I'm getting closer to my drink, right? And I need to do some work. I need to go reach out to a new guy, you know? And it's like the things have totally switched, you know? It's like the psychic change that it talks about, you know? And the side effect, you know, I mean, the main thing, you know, was to stay sober. The side effect is that I have this amazing life. You know, I have 2 dogs. I'm a homeowner now, you know, business owner, real estate agent. I mean, you know, I have the best relationship with my mom I ever had, you know, through her sickness too. You know, I have a host of friends. You know, I really do, man. I got a lot of people in this room that I can honestly call my friends that can steal my hamburger out of my hand, and I know it's out of love. Serious, true story. And, you know, and it's the best gift that I've ever been given in my life, you know, and if anybody in here wants to stay sober, you know, like really wants help and can't do it, man, I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to do whatever I can, you know. I'll put in as much as you can, but I'll walk to the ends of the earth with you to do it, you know. And I won't say the second part right now. So, you know, with that, you know, I'm grateful to be here and sober, and thank you guys very much.
Let's thank our speaker once again.